Imagine a world teetering on the precipice of oblivion, where humanity's future hangs by a thread. Picture yourself in a war, not of your own time, but a desperate fight for survival waged decades from now. Welcome, cinematic explorers, to a journey through the Tomorrow War, a gripping saga of sacrifice, family, and the ultimate fight for tomorrow. Today, we're dissecting every heart-pounding moment of this sci-fi epic, so get ready to dive deep. But before we leap into the future, please remember to like this video, subscribe for more breakdowns, and let me know your favorite part in the comments below. Our story begins with Dan Forrester, a former soldier turned high school science teacher, who dreams of doing something special with his life. He tries to instill ambition in his young daughter, Maury, encouraging her to achieve greatness. Dan shares a tender moment with Maury, who reassures him about the future, unknowingly foreshadowing events to come. Suddenly, during a World Cup match, soldiers from the future disrupt the broadcast, issuing a dire warning. They reveal a devastating war against non-human enemies called White Spikes in the year 2051, a war humanity is losing. To prevent total annihilation, they've initiated a worldwide draft, sending civilians and military personnel into the future. The public is bewildered and resistant, with widespread protests against the forced conscription. Dan witnesses this discontent in his classroom, where students question fighting a war that hasn't happened yet. Dan is unexpectedly drafted and reports for a medical exam, where he learns unsettling information about the draft criteria. During the examination, his jump band reveals he is designated Active 2, meaning he meets all conscription requirements. Even more shockingly, the system indicates that Dan will die in 7 years, on October 13, 2030. He's given a jump band, a device that facilitates time travel and tracks him, and told to report for training in 24 hours. Returning home, Dan desperately tries to find a way out, learning that the survival rate for draftees is less than 20%. He attempts to flee with his wife, Emmy, and Maury, but Emmy suggests seeking help from Dan's estranged father, James. Dan confronts his father, a survivalist with deep mistrust of the government, leading to a tense reunion. James, despite his resentment, knows how to remove the jump band but refuses to help Dan escape the draft. Their strained relationship and past grievances resurface, highlighting Dan's father's abandonment and his own bitterness. With no other choice, Dan says a tearful goodbye to Maury, promising to return home. At basic training, Dan joins a diverse group of draftees, including the quirky Charlie and veteran Dorian. Lieutenant Hart explains the dire global situation and the critical importance of their mission. The soldiers are informed that their tour of duty lasts 7 days, after which they automatically jump back if still alive. They receive basic gear, with many recruits questioning the arbitrary nature of the supplies. Dan theorizes with Charlie that only those already dead in the future can be drafted, to avoid paradoxes. Dan, Charlie, and Dorian are assigned to our force, a research unit tasked with preventing humanity's extinction. They learn about the jump link, a fragile temporal displacement device, and why they can only jump forward to 2051 and back. The Sabbath, a period when the White Spikes retreat, is when new troops are inserted into the future. Unexpectedly, they are deployed early when a research facility comes under attack. Their jump is chaotic and goes awry, scattering the unit during deployment. Dan and a few survivors land in a devastated Miami, now overrun by White Spikes. Command informs Dan that the city will be cleaned by bombardment, eradicating all life, including them, if they don't evacuate. Their mission shifts from deployment to a combat search and rescue (CSAR) operation, retrieving a research team from a lab. During the rescue, they encounter the White Spikes, learning their only vulnerable points are the neck and abdomen. Upon reaching the lab, they discover the research team has been killed, but crucial biological materials remain. Dan's team must retrieve specific blue ampoules, encountering White Spikes within the facility. With bombs minutes away, Dan leads a desperate escape through the collapsing building, battling the aliens. They fight their way out, suffering heavy casualties, including Charlie, who sacrifices himself for the group. Back at the Deep Swell facility, Dan is confronted by Dorian, who criticizes his decision to save his friends. Dorian reveals he has cancer and is fighting in the war to die on his own terms rather than a slow death at home. Dan is called to meet the Colonel, who turns out to be an older Mori, his daughter from the future. The shocking revelation unfolds as Dan connects the dots, understanding the paradox and his personal connection to the war. Mori explains her role as a lead researcher, stressing the critical situation humanity faces. She clarifies that their reunion is not sentimental, but entirely mission-driven, as humanity is on the verge of extinction. Mori shows Dan a captive female white spike, explaining its aggressive nature and the male's fierce protectiveness of it. They discover that while the males are susceptible to their toxin, the females possess a natural detoxification mechanism. Their mission is to analyze the female's physiology to develop a potent toxin that can neutralize their entire species. Mori recounts the white spike's stealthy arrival and rapid conquest of Earth within just 3 years. Dan asks Mori about his future death and what happened to his wife, but Mori is hesitant to reveal details, fearing paradoxes. Working together, they study the female white spike, noting its extreme resilience and resistance to sedatives. They race against time to identify the specific enzyme the female uses to break down the toxin, hoping to create an inhibitor. After countless tests, they achieve a breakthrough, creating a viable toxin with a 100% bond. Just as they succeed, the white spikes breach the Deep Swell facility, targeting the female and the new toxin. Mori instructs Dan to take the toxin back to his time to mass produce it, preventing the war from ever happening. Dan, unwilling to abandon his daughter, promises to return for her after delivering the toxin. During the chaotic escape, Mori sacrifices herself to ensure Dan makes the jump back with the toxin. Dan returns to his time only to learn the jump link is destroyed, meaning no more jumps to the future, and no way to send the toxin. Devastated, Dan realizes he has the cure but no means to deploy it, feeling Mori's sacrifice was in vain. His wife and Charlie encourage him to think differently, leading him to consider the white spike's true origin. They theorize the white spikes didn't arrive via spaceship in 2048 but were already on Earth, dormant. Dan, Charlie, and his family track down Martin, his science student, who identifies volcanic ash found on a white spike claw. Martin explains the millennium eruption of the Changbai volcano in 946 AD, which spread ash globally. They deduce the white spikes were trapped under a Russian glacier since the eruption, thawing out in 2048. Dan desperately tries to convince government officials, but they dismiss his outlandish claims. With no official support, Dan turns to his estranged father, James, who agrees to fly them to Russia in his C-130 plane. They assemble a small team, including Dorian and other former draftees, ready for a covert mission. In Russia, they search the glacier for geothermal anomalies, hoping to find the white spike's buried lair. They discover a massive magnetic field, confirming the location of the alien crash site. Inside, they find a crashed spaceship, realizing the white spikes were never invaders but cargo, bioengineered weapons. The team injects the toxin into the dormant white spikes, initiating a mass kill. They activate explosives, ensuring the destruction of the ship and the remaining white spikes. During the battle, James displays courage, fighting alongside his son and saving him. They realize one female, the Alpha, has escaped the initial blast and is trying to lay eggs. Dan sends his father and Charlie back to safety, determined to pursue the Alpha himself. James, defying orders, returns to help Dan, revealing his deep-seated desire for redemption. In a climactic struggle, Dan and James face the Alpha, with James apologizing for his past failures before sacrificing himself. Dan injects the Alpha with the toxin, finally eradicating the white spike threat for good. News reports confirm a massive explosion in Russia, linking it to the future war, but denying alien involvement. The government covers up the true nature of the mission, claiming victory over a non-existent threat. Back home, Dan introduces young Mori to her grandfather, creating a new, happier timeline for their family. Dan reflects on how his journey to the future, and Maury's sacrifice, forever changed him, ensuring he would never abandon his family again. And there you have it, the full breakdown of The Tomorrow War, a film that truly puts family at the heart of an apocalyptic struggle. What were your thoughts on Dan Forrester's journey, and Maury's heartbreaking sacrifice? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting movie explanations. Until next time, keep exploring the magic of cinema.